Hey guys, and welcome back to another Warframe video. As many of you know, I like to be very lazy in this game and just really not move around all that much, and if I can get away with as little as possible, I will. Not to say that this build is as little as possible, there's quite a bit of input into it, but overall, the outcome is that you don't have to move, and you just end up living forever. So I thought I'd go ahead and play around with it for a bit. And make a video out of it. So, as many of you will have probably seen over the last sort of couple of months, there's been a lot of sort of revised weapon builds coming out revolving around crit damage, particularly the Kuva Nukor, since now that we have secondary innovate, this weapon just becomes insanely powerful. Now, my one, I have done nothing with in terms of Valence Fusion. It's Toxin still, it's 28.6. If you wanted to, you could actually swap this now over to impact damage and then use hemorrhage to get slash on this, but I'm just going to settle with this build because it still does a stupid amount of damage either way. So we've got galvanized shot on here. This is a direct damage build. We have 4 elements on: viral, magnetic, heat, and radiation. Magnetic might allows us to get magnetic in one swing, which is what allows us to get the 4 different elements on. So this is going to be pretty damn good. Secondary innovate, obviously, providing us with the crit chance. So we don't actually need any crit chance mods on this build, just crit damage, which you can see gets us up to 12.5 times crit multiplier. And I imagine if you had some kind of rhythm for this, you might be able to get a bit higher, but obviously it is a 1 dot, so you know, you won't get a whole lot out of it, but either way, yeah, even an extra sort of 50% crit multiplier would get that even higher. And then everything else is geared towards damage. I am not running Lethal Torrent. I do not believe it to be entirely necessary on this build. Galvanized Diffusion just seems to do the job just fine. And I would rather, you know, run something else instead of Lethal Torrent, to be honest, in order to either A, get another element on, which in this case we are, or B, more crit chance or crit damage. So yeah, that's the build. And then I'm running Suppress because we are going to be using Ivara for this little cheap trick. And as again, many of you know, Ivara has Prowl, which basically allows her to stay invisible indefinitely. And this is going to work well with our hushed Kuva Nukor, because obviously by firing that, we are not going to come out of Prowl as you usually would with the Kuva Nukor, hence why we're running Hush on it. I've also gone ahead and thrown in Snare on. The only reason I've thrown in Snare on is just to take out the Acolytes in Steel Path. This is a long endurance survival build, so I want to be able to survive through every single Acolytes. The Acolytes can pull you out of your Prowl and target you whilst you are in Prowl. So this is actually quite an important tool to have because you want to be CCing them and getting sort of a decent distance away. Not miles away, but far enough away that they're not going to pull you out of Prowl and potentially cause you to die. However, we are running a few little bits and bobs on our build that will help with keeping alive, such as rolling guard, so if we do get pulled out of Prowl, we can do a quick roll and become invulnerable for 3 seconds. I've also got quick thinking on. We do have a large energy pool with primed flow, and I am running energized to keep that up nice and high. I have sure-footed on. If you have prime sure-footed, do go ahead and throw that on. I'm not totally convinced by just normal sure-footed on this particular build. If you don't have prime sure-footed, I'm sure you could run something else. Now, since we're going to be in Prowl, we can also make use of the extra loot, which at the moment you can see is at 50%, and our headshot damage is only at 1.2 times. Not that we're really going to be worrying about headshot damage in this, because I'm not going to be aiming for the head at any point. But we are running Growing Power, which will provide us with an additional 25%, and Arcane Crepuscular is going to give us an additional 30%, as we are going to be invisible the whole time. And we also get an additional +3 times final critical multiplier from this Arcane, which stacks up very nicely with our Kuva Nukor again. So this is a nice one to have. Arcane Energize you actually probably don't need. You could probably swap that out for something else. I'm just running it because I didn't know what else to run, and it is a good way to keep your energy pool up nice and high, even though our drain on this is only going to be 0.33 a second. So realistically, you know, it's just not going to make a difference. And the steal time on this, obviously we've maxed out duration as much as possible on this, so we're at 306%. That is going to allow us to steal items every 0.82 seconds, and since enemies are going to be dying very quickly, we need that to be very low if we want to make any use of it. And to be honest, we do. It's not a loot build, it is a stay alive build, so, you know, not worried too much, but it would be nice. I do have just one random Archon shard left over here, it's just a normal Crimson. I don't know why it's on here, to be honest. It's just been, yeah, left over from when I did my playthrough, I guess. But you can put on whatever you want here. Emeralds might be quite nice for toxin corrosive if you are running that. Alternatively, yeah, you could just stack up some more ability strength. Whatever you want, really. Every other weapon on this build we're not going to be using. I'm not going to use the Natteruk. I have the Glaive Prime on solely because I occasionally use it to help kill the Acolyte. The Kuva Nukor is not so great at killing the Acolyte because it's status based entirely, and the direct damage to the Acolyte, it's a bit hit and miss. So you can still take it down quite easily with this once it's CC'd. It's just a case of obviously doing it nice and fast. If you want, run the Glaive Prime, run an Exodia Contagion Riven, whatever you want. Madurai on our focus tree right here. I mean, really all this is giving us is an additional 30% damage if you're running something that requires you to use your operator, such as the survival mission on Lua, which the name escapes me. But yeah, you can obviously run whatever setup you want. Last Gasp will also help keep you alive. And then our pet, I am running normal Nautilus. I don't actually have Prime Nautilus on this particular account, so I've just stuck with my trusty old normal Nautilus, which I've just thrown one more former on just now, hence you can see it is up at rank 14 only. Just goes to show you how lazy I am. I didn't even bother maxing this out before I started recording. But we are running Momentous Bond and Manifold Bond. So Manifold Bond is going to allow us to reduce the cooldown from Cordon by an insane amount. We are always going to be killing enemies with 3 or more unique status effects on them, just because of how we've set our build up on the Kuva Nukor. So this is going to be triggering every like 1 or 2 seconds and just corralling all of the enemies in towards us, allowing us to take them out en masse. Vacuum to pick up all the loot. Momentous Bond, that's going to again, combined with Prime Regen, is going to allow us to get our companion back to life very quickly. And Spare Parts I have put as our priority preset mod. That's going to again allow us to get a bit more loot from enemies and will also be affected by Manifold Bond. So yeah, you can actually get a decent amount of loot. Not as much as if you were running a dedicated loot build, but you can still get quite a lot. So yeah, that's that. There's nothing really else anywhere on this build that I want to go on, or go into. We're not going to be using Artemis Bow. Yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. So what we'll do, we'll hop into the Lua survival mission, which I've forgotten the name of, and we'll see how it works out. Alright, guys, let's get into our prowl straight away here. I'd recommend finding a little kind of hallway zone for this particular method. Let's go ahead and just clear out these guys. As it allows you to pull in enemies from either side, you want to reduce the spawn path as much as possible when doing this, just so that it doesn't take enemies too long to run from where they spawn to where you actually are. Otherwise, what you will find is the kind of continuous chain of cordon, which you can see is happening here, will stop and slow down as it's about to now-ish. We've still got some enemies coming through, but yeah, you can see in this room right here on the minimap, the enemies are spawning sort of very far away around the corners, and we want to reduce that as much as possible. So yeah, we'll go and find ourselves a nice little spot. I'm not going to do a really long farm for this. I am going to basically just find a spot, sit in it for about 20 minutes. I'll show you guys what it's like when the Acolyte spawns and when any of the other enemies spawn in that might cause us a bit of a problem, or when our Nautilus actually dies. But you can see this is a very neat way to kind of just suck enemies in towards you, and then yeah, the Kuva Nukor finishes them off with absolute ease. So yeah, let's crack on, guys. So this is quite a little fun spot, actually. It kind of reminds me of a Minecraft mob spawner where enemies are just kind of falling from the sky, which is quite fun. We don't want it quite there. Let's try and make it a bit more central, perhaps. And yeah, I don't have to move. Oh, we get additional ability strength here as well. That's nice. I don't have to move really at all for this. I can just stand still, basically hold my cursor in one position, and let the enemies all just get sucked into a single black hole of oblivion. As you can see. The only part of this particular method that you do have to be careful of, if you're on Steel Path of course, is when the Acolyte spawns. That's literally it. And obviously we have Rolling Guard just to help us out a bit there. And just do be careful. The one ability you want to look out for is the kind of bubble on yourself so that you don't end up obviously just killing yourself. If you can CC him as quickly as possible, you're usually fine. Oh, interesting. And yeah, I can just hold down my Kuva Nukor on him. And there we go, fairly straightforward. So we'll just go back to staring at this one spot in the middle of the room, having all the enemies drop down on us. We can kill these guys quite easily, I think. Oh, okay, he needed a bit more work, it looks like. And there we go, yeah, we can just carry on. So, yeah, let's try and take this to, what, like 20 minutes? By which time there'll be a few more Eximus units spawning, so that'll test our kind of survivability. Yeah, maybe a bit of high ground. That seems to make a bit of a difference. Oh, these guys again. Whoa! Let's be a bit careful here. Alright guys, so we are hitting, or getting close to the 20-minute mark. Our kills per minute are a little under the 150 point, but it's pretty close, and as you can see our life support is sustaining itself pretty well, so I'm not too worried, to be honest. I am enjoying the kind of little high ground I've got here on top of this orb. Oh, we've got another Acolyte spawning. Let's be a bit careful again. CC him up as soon as he spawns. There we go. We'll go and get that steel essence in a second. It looks like we've been stood still too long and our vacuum has turned itself off. Let's rectify that problem. So 30 more minutes and then we'll hop out of here. But yeah, I mean, you could go for a very, very long time doing this. I don't even want to think about how long you could go. And if you were running corrosive on your weapon, so if you did go for the other build and you went with, you know, impact on your progenitor and went for a hemorrhage build, and then you put corrosive on as well, I would suggest you could just literally go indefinitely by doing this. And let's kill these Thrax guys right here. That'll do, and yeah, let's get out. Oh, we'll use our operator gap here. Alright, so as I said, this wasn't a farming build. I don't even have a resource booster or resource drop chance booster on, but you know, we didn't get a crazy low amount of resources. 30 neurodes isn't too shabby at all, actually. And yeah, all in all, pretty good, I'd say. Is there anything else that dropped in that? Oh, ferrite, 16k ferrite. Yeah, that's not so great compared to my when we did our Core of Farm build. But yeah, either way, you know, not running any boosters or anything on this, so just to stay alive is what this build's for. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video or found it interesting. If you have any suggestions or ways that you like to use the insanely now overpowered Kuva Nukor, do let me know down in the comments below. Would love to see your suggestions. I haven't really had a whole lot of opportunity to engage with the new content. We're just getting there on my current playthrough for this year, so I'm sure we'll be delving into it quite a bit then. But until the next one, guys, if you did enjoy the video, please leave a like and subscribe, and I will see you later.